Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's story is a brand new author by the name of Kendall Thompson. As ever, please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help with the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag Team Fear. And so, with that aside, let's get into tonight's story, entitled Medicine People. Let's get straight into that. The little girl's big brother hid her in the woods as they could hear the screams, gunshots and shouts to get ready to move by the US soldiers. He told her to stay there until he came back to get her and for her to be quiet. Darkness came quickly to the snow-covered forest, but she was not afraid because she often wandered into the forest to talk to her friends. Sitting by a tree, she noticed food from her village was laying beside her. "Ah, your coke. Thank you, my friend." The next morning when she woke up, she followed her friend to her home. There she found her father and brother dead, with no one else from her family. Turning to her friend, she asked if he could find them. A very large hand lifted her to the inside of his huge arms and chest, starting them upon their journey. The Oklahoma detective looked over the girl's dead body that was found in a ditch. He asked the officer on the scene if there was any witnesses, with the answer being no. He told the detective that there's stories spreading around of a large black panther, but the detective told him that this is what the killer wants us to think. The chewed marks upon her body hid the stab wounds in her chest, showing that she was already dead way before her body had even been chewed upon. Nora stood in her high school hallway trying to beat the second bell. It's been almost a whole year since moving to the city with her mum and dad, far away from the rural area where she had grown up. Nora was still feeling the excitement, thinking about her coming 16th birthday. She wished she could have her older brother and cousins around when it came. Her brother Kane chose to stay and finish school, leaving with their grandparents because he seemed always at home there. She was tired of the ways and traditions everyone had taught her. She thought being far away was a chance to start over. Even here, she felt more of an outsider because she stayed away from the few native kids who were here at her school. And she wanted a new start. Nora's last period was almost over when a girl who sat in the back of the class asked her if she was a real Indian. Nora just nodded yes, expecting to be made fun of, but the girl seemed quite genuinely interested. "My name is Bobby, and I noticed you always seem to be by yourself." Nora felt like she had finally found a friend, and Bobby kept talking to her throughout the week and asking Nora what she did on the weekends. Nora felt a little ashamed when she told her that she just stayed at home. Bobby asked for a phone number and address and told her that she would come by and pick her up. Nora was excited, but thought her mum wouldn't let her go. "Your dad isn't home yet, but I want you to be careful and stay away from the outside of the city." Well, when the horn honked, she grabbed her bag and ran out to get in the car, seeing 3 older boys inside the car. And when she looked at Bobby, she just told her that this was her brother and his friends. And she thought her brother was cute as they drove off. Nora noticed that they were headed outside of town and said that her mum didn't want her going out here. And Bobby just laughed, said that it's all okay, and so Nora didn't want to upset her new friends. They arrived at a clearing when everyone got out of the car. Her brother said that they were early so they could have a little fun. Beer and cigarettes were being passed around, and Nora never did any of these and was trying to fake drinking her beer. She asked Bobby to walk with her so she could pee, and when she pulled up her pants, she saw that Bobby wasn't there, but instead her brother. She was trying to figure out a way to get back to the group without making a scene, when she heard one of the guys yell, "What in the hell is that?" When everyone was back at the car, they asked what he was yelling about. He told them that he saw something huge and black, in the grass. The grass had to be at least 4 feet tall. Nora said that she wanted to go home, but Bobby and her brother tried to convince her it was just a dog. But Nora was almost ready to walk her way home when Bud, Bobby's brother, reached out to grab her. In a split second, the biggest, blackest panther leaped, narrowly missing Bud's arm. Bobby yelled and said that they had to do this another time, and they should go home. And they could see the panther keeping pace with the car until it finally ran back into the woods. When she got to her home, Nora's mum couldn't understand what she was saying, and Nora calmed down and told her mum everything. Her mum was very upset, but was glad that she was okay, all in all, which surprised her, thinking that she would never let her out of the house again. "We will talk about this when your dad gets home." She sat in her room, and she saw her dad's truck pull in and open the front door, and she could hear her parents talking when he walked into her room. She immediately started crying when he just knelt and hugged her, holding her for a long time. He told her the coming weekend school will be out and they will go to her grandparents to celebrate her birthday with a family. Nora was actually excited about going back to see everyone, and she was surprised to see that Bobby didn't show back up to school until the last day. She asked Nora if she was in trouble. Nora just told her that they would be going back to celebrate her birthday. Nora just said that she would call when they returned. Arriving at her grandparents' home, all the hugs and kisses came, even from Kane, since he was more the one making her upset. Kane just held her and asked if she was okay, and she just nodded yes and said she missed him. Tashina, her best friend and cousin, came running to her, asking what it was like living in the city, and they talked about her birthday party and life in the country. Tashina said that more white kids came out there trying to find different places to party, and when the tribal police would go out there to where they were, and they would all be hysterical, saying that Bigfoot or some kind of monster was out there with them. And they just all thought it was the beer and weed talking, because they were always told to stay away from those areas. That afternoon, her dad got a call and he told her mum he had to go back in to work and he would hurry back. Her grandmother talked to both the girls about the importance of tradition, and that her grandfather and Kane went to gather wood for a bonfire for her birthday. Her mum and grandmother went into town to get food, leaving only Nora and Tashina. And to Nora's surprise, Bobby, Bud and the other two pulled into the driveway, saying they came to celebrate with her. Tashina told Nora that she didn't trust them, but she told her that they were okay. And while they were waiting, they asked Nora to show them scary places. So, when Nora got into the car, Tashina went also. When they were headed to a place that was forbidden, Tashina said that this is a bad idea. They all got out of the car eventually, when Bobby was on her phone. In the darkness of the trees, they saw headlights approaching, thinking they were in trouble when an older woman and two men walked towards them. Nora was trying to find out what was going on and who were these people. And Bobby said that she comes from one of the older countries in Europe and that she is the leader of a coven. And Nora screamed, "What? Are you all witches?" And they all laughed, and the woman said she's one of the most powerful witches and the boys are vampires, and your friend Bobby helps find us people to sacrifice and for the boys to feed. Bud asked how they found them so easily. She smiled and then pulled Nora's grandfather out of the back seat, tied up. And before Nora could run to him, she and Tashina were grabbed and tied up also. And they tied her grandfather to a tree and told him he could have the honor of watching them sacrifice the two girls. Nora cried and screamed to him that she was so sorry for what was happening. She cried out that she was so sorry for not accepting and listening to them all when she had a chance. This made the witch laugh even louder and louder, telling them that she would make this as quickly and as easily as possible. This witch started saying the evil words to call upon her magic work, grabbing her dagger and walking towards Nora. The only thing you could hear were the whimper of the two girls when a small chuckle could be heard. The witch looked at each of the boys and she yelled who dares to laugh when she was working. The chuckle grew louder and came from the direction of her grandfather. Enraged, the witch shouted that his laugh will cause the girls more pain and suffering. And when he raised his head, he calmly said, "This great magic you proudly boast of is equal to the same magic we let our children play with to keep them occupied." He then spoke a chant that made fear crawl up her back to where she was unable to move. The ropes that tied him to the tree fell to the ground, and when her grandmother walked into view with a huge black panther next to her, she then called out for Cain to come out and deal with these people who wanted to harm your sister. Suddenly, something giant and bigger than any bear swatted the heads off of the three boys. Her grandmother leapt into her owl form, picking one of the men into the air as she ripped off every limb. The grandfather then spoke a chant that made the other man's head explode, and he then told Nora to feel the words in her heart and unleash it. Turning slowly towards Bobby, she spoke the words that peeled the skin from every inch of her body, leaving her to die a slow, painful death. As death consumed Bobby, grandfather then told the witch that Nora's mother wanted the chance to show her what happens to anyone who dares to try and harm her daughter. As grandmother and Cain walked to the girls, the screams of the witch grew more and more faint as she was ripped apart. After everything was finished, Nora asked why they never told her of these things. Grandmother simply said that she wouldn't believe what they would say and had to see it with her own eyes in order to believe. Nora nodded and then looked at Tashina and asked, "You knew also?" She just giggled and said there were no secrets among natives. Back at her grandparents' home, she was chosen to follow her grandfather and father, while Cain followed their grandmother and mom. She then asked where did her dad go to earlier. Her mother said that every tribe have the medicine people, or animal people with many protectors that appear when they are needed. In these past few centuries, those from the other side of the world tried to come here and disrupt the balance. And we will always be here to make sure they don't make it this their home. And so, Bigfoot, Wendigos are not evil? No, they are more the ancient ones, along with many others. Your dad, he went to open a portal for a skinwalker to go through to another country, because certain men thought they could kidnap his niece. When he's done with them, your dad will bring him back through, just as you will someday. Medicine People, Part 2. Let's get straight into that. The little Choctaw girl watched as her giant friend tracked her people, walking to a strange new place marched by soldiers. She felt sad, thinking she wouldn't find her family. Her friend sensed her sadness, looking at her. Looking up at him, a smile slowly came across her face as she said, "We can catch up to them faster, if you carry me." Her friend nodded, scooping her up and began to run. Little Sparrow couldn't believe how fast they were going. It was like they were gliding swiftly through the air, and her friend never stopped, only to find her something to eat or drink. By the 8th nightfall that had passed, her friend had gotten off the trail that they were following to walk into the cover of the dense forest. Sitting in his large arms, she saw the rear of the company of the soldiers and the yelling of commands, but she didn't know who they were yelling at. As they quickly walked up, ahead she could see her people walking in front, surrounded on 3 sides, pushed on by the soldiers. Tears flowed down her cheeks as she saw the sad, dejected looks on her people's faces, some barely even standing up, A few elderly couldn't go on anymore and fell, as did a couple of children barely old enough to walk and too sick to cry. And when she saw some soldiers lift their rifles like clubs to end the lives of these that fell behind, she almost screamed, but her friend quickly covered her mouth and covered her. A couple of soldiers looked at where they heard her scream, but couldn't see anyone, and so continued onwards. When they went over a hill a little Sparrow and her friend went to the dead. In anger, her friend smashed the ground with his large hand, making the ground shake. She asked if she could bury them in their traditional way, and so they could take their final journey, but her friend told her that they were already on the other side. The Lusa Falea, a long black thing, will be along to take care of their bodies. She asked if it was good or bad, and he said both. It helps take care of things that die by eating them to prevent disease, but will take out the living if nature is disrespected or if he is angered by the sins of man. When nightfall came, Little Sparrow could hear the steps of many things coming through the forest. Small steps and large steps, and she got scared and went behind her friend. He let out a low chuckle and told her not to be afraid. These are more friends and protectors of the forest. In the small clearing came the little people, some a few inches tall, others as tall as Little Sparrow, and then came the dogmen, strong and very tall and fierce looking, and hairy people, some shorter than her friend, and others much larger. One of the young hairy men stood in front of her, with a hand motion from his chest straight across in a level motion for the sign of "So be it." She smiled and returned the sign back to him when one of the little people asked her friend if this is the blessed child with the gift of medicine. Her friend said, yes, she is the next generation of the pipe carriers. She asked them, are you going to teach me the secrets of how to make the medicine and native magic? They all nodded yes, and throughout the night she was shown everything they held in their power. But at the same time, she was afraid she wouldn't learn everything shown to her, but was told that two of them would always be next to her, as they have with her ancestors as before. She didn't realize that she had spent all night and the next day with the little people, when in the darkness she could see her people making camp, all huddled together, trying to keep warm because they had no fire. Her friends all appeared with berries and other foods in baskets made of twigs and told her to walk ahead of them so she can tell her people not to be afraid and for Little Sparrow not to worry because their medicine keeps them being seen by the soldiers. Her mother was the first to notice Little Sparrow walking out of the forest, but her mouth fell wide open and the others did the same as they all saw the ones following behind her. Little Sparrow quickly told them to be quiet and that these were her friends and they came to help. Every family couldn't believe seeing the scary dogmen placing food in front of them, as well as all of the others. And those that had tobacco gave it to the protectors or anything else that they had that was valuable to them. And talking to her mother, Little Sparrow told her of how her friend rescued her from the forest and seeing her dead father and brother. Her mother told her that they both tried to stop the soldiers from grabbing her and her sisters, and they were shot because of it. She also told her that her grandfather always told us that she was a special child, and we knew already because you could seem to talk to things when we couldn't see them. After talking, she told her mother that they will be returning to the forest, but that they will be with them every step of the way. And before walking into the forest, the protectors gave every family things to keep them warm, given a sign of "so be it." Later, during the night, an owl perched next to her, and she suddenly felt sad, telling her friend that a messenger of death was there. Her friend just said that owl gets you prepared for your last journey. Death comes for all people in time. And don't be scared, just sing your death song, as you will go back home to the ancestors. and during the night, a soldier walked into the camp, grabbing one of the young girls as she screamed. Other soldiers aimed their rifles at the men. Little Sparrow watched as he took the girl into his tent, and when, out of the corner of her eye, she saw something come out of the forest. It was Lusa Falea. It was so tall and black. She couldn't see its features, but saw it swiftly go into the tent. Screams of agony and pain echoed out of the tent as the soldier was torn apart, and then all of a sudden it stopped. The creature came out, holding a girl by the hand, leading her into the forest. And when the other soldiers saw the inside of the tent, they automatically thought it was a bear attack, and saying it must have dragged the girl away. Her friend softly said, "You see, it takes care of the sins of man." Back to the present day, and Nora walked with her grandfather in the forest, listening to him talk about old stories and about the ancient times of the beginnings of medicine. In the beginning, a person from every tribe was given the gift of medicine and given a sacred pipe. A great council came together, made up of every pipe carrier and all of the protectors of the forest. They all agreed that no tribe or medicine person was above the others, and to always protect the balance of nature. Then, when the first white man came here, we gave them our knowledge of how to live here because of our traditional ways told us to always give your most treasured belongings. Some that came with them were witches and warlocks, and they fought with each other for power. We didn't interfere because this was their culture and stayed out of their business. Nora asked why were they at war with them now. And he said every tribe had a sacred place from which they came. And for example, we had the Nanir Wahia as sacred mounds. The Lakota had their Black Hills and Apaches the sacred mountain. Just a few examples. The medicine people and protectors watched over them because, besides being a holy place to us, it's also a gateway to the spirit world. Then, when these witches and warlocks learned about these places, they wanted to use these things to bring in horrible things from the other side. We tried to warn them that they can't control these things, and that the creatures will be the destruction to everyone. They didn't listen to us, but have tried to get information about how to open these portals. They tortured and killed many medicine people, but none have given in to their demands because they knew that in their death their medicine will be passed down to the next generation. When the witches learned they couldn't get what they wanted, they resorted to other things to wipe us out. They became powerful, taking over high positions in society, using the people to carry out their agenda. They gave us diseases, their religion, boarding schools and alcohol, which broke our connection to the earth. Forced relocation to reservations was their final way of trying to exterminate us. Many pipe carriers were lost, but before their deaths, they would place their pipes in sacred medicine bundles, waiting to be presented to the next special man or woman. We then had to secretly practice our gifts and traditions to be able to take back what was ours. We tried to avoid it, but soon had to face it, and we had to go to war with these enemies. Medicine people who didn't carry the pipe used their gifts to transform themselves into animals, like a brother Cain. He has the spirit of the bear, which is the most powerful. Some call them skinwalkers. Nora then asked about the protectors, if all the legends are true. They all exist, but we made up the stories to make them sound like monsters. You know that hairy men, dogmen, and little people are good, just like our brother, the Wendigo, and others like him. Yes, their appearance is scary to those that don't know the truth. Even some of our own people are so far away from our culture and traditions, and we have to bring them back and teach them about who they are. How are we able to be hidden away from these enemies? Nora asked. The trees, plants, rocks and protectors use their medicine to hide our scent. You will learn how to speak the language of all things and call them when you need them. The most powerful and wealthy people in this country are mostly witches. They have brought their own monsters to bring chaos and fear, like vampires, ogres, werewolves, etc. Are dogmen like they're werewolves? No. Ours have control of their minds. Theirs are just driven by simple rage. And some of their own witches are fighting them also. Greed has divided themselves, but our medicine people have no one above the others to maintain the balance. Our strength is almost at full capacity, but we are strong enough to fight when we have to. When campers, hitchhikers get slaughtered, it's by them, because they always use the blood of their victims to gain more power. Now they think that native blood will give them more strength, and these killings are never reported because they own the media. All of a sudden, the wind picked up speed and Nora could hear someone talking to her. At first she couldn't understand what it was saying, but her grandfather told her to concentrate, and she will understand. The words slowly became clearer, saying, "Hikers in danger." She looked at her grandfather, and he told her the trees are speaking to you. He asked, what is her spirit telling her? It says to follow the whispering, and Kane and Tashina are already headed there. And looking stunned, she asked, why is Tashina going? Grandfather laughed and said, she's one of the animal people like Kane, and she is a snake. Are you coming with me, grandfather? No, you are ready to go alone, especially since women's medicine is stronger than men. Why is women stronger? Women have more power of creation and are also closer to the spirit world. He told her he had to travel to a sacred mountain to make sure that the portal was still hidden. Nora then turned and started walking, following the whispers, guiding her to where she was needed. She didn't feel like she was running, it felt like she was gliding on air and going very fast. She came upon Kane standing there in the trees observing the hikers as they were making camp. Nora then whispered, I thought Tashina was coming here, as she sat on a fallen tree. When all of a sudden she heard Tashina say, it would be great if you would get up off of me. Startled, she saw that Tashina was a huge snake, and they both chuckled when Kane spoke in a low voice. You both are making too much noise. We have to see how many of those things are out there. Kane said that one of the hikers had been acting odd, and so Nora concentrated on the hiker's thoughts. She heard him telling his master who he had brought with them. She could hear a reply from someone saying that he did a good job because his friends are hungry. At that moment, she saw 4 figures come out of the forest. Kane said to make the hikers go into a deep sleep. On the opposite side of the forest, Nora began her chant. Words she didn't know came flowing out of her mouth, and you could see them move their heads like they were drunken. They were lowering their heads. Kane said, Sis, you did a good job, but stay here and keep them sleeping while Tashina and I went up behind them. Nora could see the vampire's face change with long, sharp teeth, and then the last guy, he fell to all fours. With his joints changing and popping, hair grew all over his body. When they were transformed, they were about to attack. But then she could hear Kane roar. She could see their menacing faces suddenly turn to fear. Kane then charged at the wolf and quickly hit him on his side, making him roar in pain. A vampire then jumped and leapt upon him, scratching his neck and back. Another vampire came from behind him to help the other vampire, when all of a sudden a long whip wrapped around his neck, curling him up. Tashina was fast, squeezing the air out of him, and Nora could hear his bones pop and break way over where she was, and that's when she could see his eyes bulging. His mouth was wide open, but no sound came out. And then Tashina gave a big squeeze, making him pop like a zit. She made the mistake of watching Tashina when a clawed hand hit her across the chest. Nora felt the pain but refused to show it, stubborn like her mother. It actually helped her in this fight. and with a wave of her hand she sent the vampire smashing against the tree and impaled against the branch. Kane was trying to keep the wolf down with the vampire upon his back, and the vampire opened wide and bit into his neck. In a rage, Kane reached over his shoulder, grabbing the vampire by the neck, and in one motion swung the vampire like a bat, hitting the wolf over and over until the vampire looked like a ragdoll. And on his last swing, its head came off. Then Kane jumped onto the wolf's back once more, making it yelp in pain, and giving Kane a chance to grab onto the top of its mouth, and pulled hard. They could see its mouth tearing open until the top of its head completely ripped off. Nora asked, "What will we do with the bodies?" Tashina said that they will take them deep into the woods for Lucifer Leia to dispose of them, and there won't be anything left. After the bodies were taken out of sight, Nora backed up inside the trees and released them from sleep. They all looked at each other, trying to figure out what had just happened, and they just thought that they were more worn out from hiking than they thought before, and laughed it off. Nora then picked up something in the grass and was grinding it up in her hand with tobacco as she sang to the Creator, putting it on Kane's wounds. They walked slowly in the direction they came from when Nora asked Tashina why she never told her how long she had done this for. "I've been able to do this for a couple of years. I couldn't tell you because you didn't believe in this stuff." Tashina just laughed and said, "You'll learn as you go," making them all laugh pretty hard as they went on home. Grandfather was at the sacred mounds when he noticed a few writings and symbols. It wasn't close to where the portal is, but it worried him to know that they were in the general area. He thought to himself, that needs to be checked. He needs to check with everyone to see if they have the same thing happening. Wow, and another one. Wow. Absolutely wonderful, wonderful story there. I really do enjoy a good Native American tale. Lots of home truths there apparently intertwined with a fictional sort of storyline. Hope you guys enjoyed that one as much as I. As ever, a huge thank you to my listener, subscriber and friend Kendall Thompson for penning that one exclusive to the channel. I know I'd like to see more from this story and this writer, and hopefully reading more of their work upon the channel. As ever, please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help with the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag Team Fear. I hope you've all had a wonderful week and are looking to it even... Fucking hell. I hope you've all had a wonderful week and are looking forward to an even better weekend. And above all, remember, be safe, not sorry.